Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am back with another emergency card kit. If you're new to my channel, an emergency card is one where we make the cards ahead of time, but we leave the sentiments off. That way, when an occasion arises, we can choose the card that best fits the recipient and a sentiment that best fits the occasion. To help you with this, I release a free printable kit for my subscribers on the first and third Friday of every month, full of free printable sentiments and a card sketch. And lately, I've been releasing bonus kits too, so be sure to stay tuned and find out all about it. Let's take a look at the kit. This kit is 11 pages with 2 separate sets of sentiments. We have masculine and Father's Day, and then we have a card sketch at the end. There will be an additional page added next Friday when we make a fun fold card using that card sketch. I'll give you all the measurements and instructions in a printable form. Because the men in my life tend to like funny sentiments and jokes and fun folds, I leaned pretty hard into that when I was putting these together. So we have a lot of like joke and punchline pairings on here. You are totally awesome. You're not old, you're just on the back 9. Let's party. Have a tea-diculous day. Which I think is ridiculous, but I know people that's perfect for, so I left it. Birthdays are like golf. They're a lot more fun if you don't keep score. Holy carp, it's your birthday. Wishing you a really great birthday. May all your birthday fishes come true. Good mechanics never get old. They keep playing with blocks forever. You never thought you'd be a grumpy old man, but here you are, killing it. Thank you for your service, for all you are, for all you do. Thank you. I had several requests for sentiments for veterans, but this kit got really big really fast. And so I have 2 for now. I do have plans to add more veteran sentiments in the future. The first page comes with 1 3/4 inch circle sentiments, and then that printed circle is just a little bit bigger. So you don't see it when you cut it out, but it does help you to get it centered. The next page has the same sentiments and the same fonts, but without the circles. So you could use a different size or a different shape altogether. Then we have our rectangle sentiments. These are 1 1/4 inch by 2 1/4 inches, and you don't need any punches or dies to punch these out. They are the same sentiments, but we also have "You are totally killing it." Next, we have those masculine sentiments as strip sentiments. They're about 1/4 inch, and you have tick marks on here to help you line those up on the blade of your trimmer and make sure that you get them straight. So we have sort of a whimsical font, a nice chunky bubbly font, a scripty font, and then a nice classic serif font. Before we look at the Father's Day sentiments, I wanted to remind you I am always interested in hearing your ideas for new kit themes or sentiment ideas for kits coming up. So as promised, we have wedding and anniversary sentiments, sympathy, and get well. So any wording or ideas or requests for those, just go ahead and put them in the comments. I'm also playing with the idea of a kit that has adulting awards that would be kind of funny, like, congratulations, you got out of bed. Good job on doing the dishes. Gold star for school drop-off. I just think it's super funny. And if you watched one of my earlier videos this week, there is a new like ribbon rosette situation that I think it would be perfect for, but I've got ideas on how to create sort of an award ribbon without having to buy that specialty die. So let me know what you think, or if you have particular adulting awards that you would like to be able to give away to the fun friends in your life. For Father's Day, we have Happy Father's Day, wishing you a hoppy Father's Day for our beer-loving brewmaster fathers. To the best dad I've ever had. When does a regular joke become a dad joke? When it becomes a parent. World's best granddad, world's best baba, world's best grandpa. And then there's 4 Happy Father's Day. The fonts here match the bottom row. I wanted you to be able to put Happy Father's Day on the front and then kind of a punchline on the inside, though some of these you could use independently. To the world's best brewmaster, from your favorite child to an absolute legend, you giant nerd. Like the other sentiments, these come first with the circle printed around them, and then same size, same fonts, but without the printed circle. Then we have our rectangle fonts. We really just have this one definite pairing that needs to go together. So I made sure those were on the same line. And then we have a handful of the Happy Father's Day and those punchlines down below. Friends, apologies if it's noisy in the background. I suppose it's fitting that these are Father's Day sentiments and like 4 of my neighbors are mowing their lawns, but this is the only time I have, so hopefully it's not too loud. We have our strip sentiments, same 4 fonts with all of those same sentiments. There is an additional sentiment in the strip sentiments that says, "To the one who stepped up," which I love for our really amazing stepdads out there. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I release free printable kits for my subscribers 2 to 3 times a month. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified the next time there's a free printable for you. Then we have our card sketch. This is the last page of the printable, and I have all the measurements that you'll need to make this card. In the background, I have this dark gray matte layer that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I am using a piece of navy blue cardstock. If you're trying to conserve your cardstock, you certainly could use 2 1/8" strips of cardstock there, but this just was a little bit easier. Next, I have a piece of pattern paper that's that light gray layer. It's 4 by 5 1/2. It's from A Manly Birthday, a paper pad from the Not Too Shabby shop. If this is still available, I will link it for you. And I'm just going to center that right onto my card base. For the rest of these measurements, I'm going to lay out some of the pieces, but I'm going to skip others. I really loved last month layering up all of the different sentiment mats together. And so they're all on here, but you don't have to use all of them. So I have this gray circle that I have cut from navy cardstock that is 2 1/4 inches. Then I'm going to use a circle sentiment. So I am using the 2-inch circle mat that I have cut from brown. There is also a banner on this one. The banner is 1 inch wide. And then depending on which type of sentiment you're using, you might need that to be a different length. Since I'm using a circle sentiment, I need mine to be at least 2 3/4 inches or it's going to get hidden back there. If I was making a rectangle sentiment mat, I would start at 3 1/4 inches, and your short strip can use that shorter measurement as well. You also can skip the banner. If you're using the rectangle, you might want to skip it unless you're going to move this strip into the middle of the card. For the strip, I'm down here. I have this pink strip that I have cut from navy again at 1 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. And the purple strip that is 1 by 5 1/2. Okay, so before I glue any of that down, I'm going to work on my banner. I brought in a scrap of white cardstock just to create a little more contrast and make this easier to see. Then I cut down my 1-inch strip to the 2 3/4 inch. To create the banner with the angles on the sketch, this is what I did. But honestly, you can eyeball this. I just know that some of us, like myself, are a little type A, and so I thought this might be helpful. This is just a scrap. It's a 1/4 inch thick strip of purple cardstock, and it's 1 inch wide. I have marked the middle of it, and I'm going to hold it all the way down at the edge of my cardstock, and I'm just going to make a dot right there. So what I'm essentially doing is measuring in 1/4 inch in the middle. I will do the same thing on the other side. Then I'm going to use my scissors and I'm going to trim straight through the middle to that dot, and then I will trim from each corner to the dot. And that gives me a banner that fits pretty perfectly with this 2 1/4 inch circle. If you're going to cut that angle a little steeper, you might want a slightly longer piece of cardstock. On our card sketch, these 2 strips are 1 inch from the right hand side, but you can eyeball it. You do need to be careful that the banner isn't going to overhang the edge of the card. And I find that easiest to do if I assemble the strips together and the circles and banner together before I put anything on the card base. Next, I'll bring my card base back in, and I can just lay these out, making sure that this banner is going to fit on my card, and find a place that I think looks good. Once I find it, I'm going to move my circles up here just to help me remember that, and I'll glue it down. For my sentiment, I have to use one of the punny, jokey ones. So I'm going to use this one. You never thought you'd be a grumpy old man. And that's going to go on the front. And I just wiggle my punch until I can't see the circle. And then I know it's centered. And I'm also going to cut out the punch line. But here you are, killing it. I'm going to use my removable adhesive to put the first sentiment on the front. Then I have another circle that I have cut just in that 2-inch, our standard mat. And I'm going to add the other sentiment onto that circle. And I'll center that. And I'm going to put that on the inside also with removable adhesive. That way, if I change the sentiment on the front and the new one doesn't have a punch line, I can just pull that off. I kind of want the placement to be the same. So I am just kind of eyeballing things here. All right, that finishes card number 1. It is masculine, it is funny with our little joke on there, and it's really, really simple. Don't forget that just because it's in the masculine kit doesn't mean that you couldn't adapt this card sketch for any occasion. That's the whole goal of emergency cards. For our second card, we're going to switch things up a little bit. I am starting with that same A2 panel, and I'm going to add that to my card base. But this time I'm using a side folding card or what could be a landscape card. And that's really why. Right? I wasn't sure how I wanted to orient this card, and this allows me the flexibility later on to make that choice. For our light gray layer, we're switching up the measurements a little bit. This one is 4 by 5 1/4 instead of 5 1/2, but only because I cut too much off the top. So certainly you could do this either way. And this is a really pale gray. It's Fog Cardstock from Fawn, and you can see it next to that white. It's barely different. But I wanted some extra visual interest, and so I created this ombre just using some black soot distress ink with a really light hand and those Spellbinders brushes, the huge ones. Like this, they're the size of my palm and they're super squishy. And so even though I was using black ink, it just looks like a pale gray. Then I used the Circle Illusions embossing folder to create some texture in there. I love that it's geometric, but it's also got some softness from those rounded edges. And I'm just going to go ahead and glue that onto my card base. Like before, I'm going to layer up my pieces independently before I put them on my card. So I have my gray circle at 2 1/4, but mine is in purple. And then I have a gray circle that's this circle mat that's 2 inches. I have these 2 layers, the pink stripe that I have out of navy at 1 1/4 by 5 1/2, and my purple stripe that's actually purple at 1 by 5 1/2. Then I also have our standard rectangle sentiment mat that's 2 1/2 by 1 1/2 back here. The first few pieces will glue together just like before. When I go to put these on my card, I have trimmed these to be a little shorter. I wanted them the same length as that gray panel, so they're now 5 1/4 instead of 5 1/2. Then I also have this rectangle sentiment mat that's 1 1/2 by 5 1/2. That's that blue rectangle in the back. I didn't use that on the last card, but this time I'm going to layer it up with my circles. If I wanted a banner behind it, I need it to be wide enough that it will fit behind the rectangle and still show. So mine is cut to 3¼ inches. I'm actually going to skip it this time, but I want to show you something. If I try to put that piece on top of a strip about 1 inch from the right, it's going to hang off the edge of my card. But if I shift everything to the center of my card, it works really well. So certainly that's an option for you if you want to keep that banner. I'll just skip it this time. I'm going to finish gluing these 3 pieces together before I add them to my card base. Because I've already put my rectangle on my card, it sort of dictates where my sentiment goes and the orientation of my card. I could have left this off or put it on with some removable adhesive, but you still have other options. I can put it here on the side, just like in the sketch, or I can put it here and rotate everything. Or I could flip it over and let it be at the bottom. You've got lots of options with this sketch, but I think I'm going to stick pretty close to the original. So this card is going to be for my dad. Purple is his favorite color, and I think I want this wishing you a happy Father's Day. Every time we go over for family gatherings, my dad makes sure to go and buy everybody's favorite beverage and have them stocked. A lot of times it's some kind of fancy beer. So I think he'll really like that. To cut out my rectangle sentiment, I am going to put this in my trimmer, and I am going to connect these 2 tick lines on the blade of my trimmer. Okay. Then I'm going to slide my trimmer blade up and I'm going to stop right about here. I want to leave this entire header intact. Then I will slide this down and do the same thing at the next set of tick marks. I will continue doing that through all of these vertical tick marks. When I'm done with that, I have flaps that are all connected at the top, and then I'll rotate and I'm going to stick this back in my trimmer and connect the tick marks on the side. If you had cut the top off, you wouldn't have those tick marks anymore. So that's why we're leaving them intact. And there's our sentiment. It's 1¼ inches by 2¼ inches. When I went to finish up my card and I put my sentiment on this mat, I felt like it was getting lost. That matte silver cardstock is very pale. It works okay, and I kind of like it, but I think I would like it more if I had an extra pop of color behind there. And so I cut an extra purple mat that's 2 3/8 by 1 3/8. It's just 1/8 of an inch smaller than the mat we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that onto my matte silver cardstock. And then I can use my removable adhesive on the back of my sentiment just in case I come up with something a little more perfectly ridiculous for my dad between now and Father's Day. And that finishes up card number 2. It's really simple. A little bit of texture, a little bit of ombre, a little flash of something metallic in my dad's favorite colors. All right, my friends, that finishes our 2 cards for today. I would love to know which of these 2 is your favorite. And I would love to know what the favorite colors are of the men in your lives. So my dad loves this sort of royal purple. My husband loves cerulean blue. I kind of get in a rut sometimes when I start trying to think about masculine colors. So I thought that would be a really great way for all of us to give each other some inspiration. If you're interested in the free printable kit with 10 pages of sentiments and a card sketch with measurements, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel. And if you ring that bell, you'll be notified every time there's a new free printable kit. So if you're a subscriber, click more or show more to unpack the description box, and you'll find more information on downloading this free kit there. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.